The morning sun cast long shadows across the crowded streets of Neo Angeles as Keanu Reeves walked slowly through the lower district. His black coat moved gently in the warm breeze, and people around him went about their daily lives without knowing who he was. After 193 years of living, he had learned to blend into crowds when he needed to think. 3 days ago, he had returned from the outer rim of the galaxy. The peace talks with the Zephyrian Empire had lasted 6 months, and every moment had been filled with tension. The alien race had been ready to declare war on all human colonies, but somehow Keanu had found the right words to change their minds. The Galactic Council had called it a miracle, but Keanu just felt tired. He needed to walk among regular people to remember why he did this work. The enhanced humans who lived in the upper city towers were impressive, but they felt distant from the humanity he had grown up with. Down here in the old neighborhoods, people still lived simpler lives. They still worried about basic things, like food, work, and family. These concerns felt real to him in a way that galactic politics sometimes did not. The street market was busy with vendors selling fresh food and handmade goods. Children ran between the stalls while their parents shopped. Old men sat on benches playing chess and arguing about sports teams that had not existed for decades. The sounds and smells reminded Keanu of his childhood, back when the world was smaller and life was shorter. He stopped at a small coffee stand run by an elderly man with kind eyes. The coffee was simple but good, nothing like the complex synthetic drinks popular in the upper city. As he sipped it, Keanu watched the flow of people moving past him. Workers heading to their jobs, students carrying books, mothers pushing strollers. Each person had their own story, their own struggles and dreams. That was when he saw her. At first, it was just a feeling that something familiar had caught his eye. He turned his head toward a small group of people gathered near an old building. They were sitting on blankets and cardboard, some holding handwritten signs asking for help. It was a common sight in the lower districts where not everyone had chosen the path of enhancement and extended life that had become normal for humanity. But one face in the group made his heart stop. She was older now, with gray hair and lines around her eyes that spoke of many years of living. Her clothes were worn and simple, and she sat quietly while others around her talked. But her posture was straight, and there was something in her expression that he recognized immediately. Lisa, Martinez, his first love, his high school sweetheart from what felt like several lifetimes ago. The girl who had kissed him under the old oak tree behind their school. The young woman who had held his hand as they talked about their dreams for the future. The person who had shaped his understanding of what it meant to care deeply for another human being. Keanu felt his coffee cup slip from his fingers. It hit the ground and shattered, hot liquid splashing across his shoes. The vendor asked if he was okay, but Keanu could not answer. He could only stare at Lisa, trying to understand how this was possible. He had assumed she was dead. Most people, from his original time, were gone now, having lived normal human lifespans while he continued on with artificial enhancements that kept his body young. He had attended memorial services for classmates and friends, accepting that this was the price of his extended life. The loneliness of outliving everyone you once knew was something every enhanced human had to face. But here she was, clearly, very old but still alive, still breathing, still existing in his world when he thought that part of his past was completely gone. Keanu began walking toward her, his legs feeling unsteady. Other people moved out of his way without thinking about it, as if they sensed something important was happening. His mind raced with questions. How had she lived so long? Why was she here in this condition? Did she know what he had become? As he got closer, he could see more details. Her hair was completely white now, tied back in a simple style. Her hands showed the spots and wrinkles of advanced age, but they moved with purpose as she wrote in a small notebook. She wore layers of clothing that had seen better days, but everything was clean and carefully arranged. This was not someone who had given up on life. Lisa looked up from her writing, perhaps sensing someone approaching. Their eyes met across the small distance that separated them, and time seemed to freeze. Her face changed as recognition dawned. Her mouth opened slightly in surprise, and the notebook slipped from her hands. For a long moment, neither of them moved or spoke. The noise of the street continued around them, but it felt distant and unimportant. Keanu found himself unable to form words. In all his years of diplomatic training, through countless negotiations with alien species and heated debates in the Galactic Council, he had never been at such a loss for language. He had argued with beings whose thought processes were completely unlike human thinking. He had convinced warlords to lay down their weapons and persuaded entire civilizations to change their ways. But seeing Lisa Martinez, aged and weathered but unmistakably herself, sitting among the homeless in the streets of Neo Angeles, left him completely speechless. She spoke first, her voice carrying the same gentle tone he remembered, though it was rougher now with age. "Hello, Keanu," she said simply. "I was wondering when our paths would cross again." The words hit him like a physical blow. She had been expecting this meeting. Somehow she had known they would see each other again. While he had spent nearly 2 centuries thinking she was gone forever, she had been waiting. He tried to speak, but no sound came out. His hands shook slightly as he stared at her, taking in every detail of how time had changed her face while leaving her essential self untouched. The girl he had loved was still there, visible in the woman she had become. Around them, the street continued its normal rhythm, but for Keanu, everything had stopped. The most important moment in decades was happening in the most ordinary place imaginable, and he could not find a single word to express what he was feeling. Keanu slowly walked closer to Lisa, his heart beating fast in his chest. She smiled at him, the same warm smile he remembered from their teenage years. Her face was lined with age, but her eyes still held the kindness that had drawn him to her so long ago. "You look exactly the same," Lisa said, tilting her head as she studied his face. "The treatments have been good to you." He finally found his voice, though it came out rough and uncertain. "Lisa, I thought you were gone. It has been so long." 170 years, she said calmly. "Give or take a few months." Keanu knelt down on the sidewalk beside her, not caring that his expensive clothes would get dirty. Other people in the small group glanced at them with curiosity, but Lisa made a small gesture that seemed to tell them this was private. "How?" he asked. "How are you still alive? Most people from our time chose normal lifespans." Lisa picked up her notebook from where it had fallen and brushed off the cover. "I did choose a normal lifespan," she said. "But normal for humans has gotten longer, even without the full enhancement treatments. Better medicine, cleaner environment, healthier food. I am 188 years old, Keanu. This is what the end of a natural human life looks like now." He stared at her, trying to process this information. While he had been kept young and strong by advanced technology, she had aged naturally but still managed to live far longer than humans in their original time. "But why here?" he asked, gesturing to the street around them. "Why are you living like this?" Lisa laughed, a sound that made his chest tight with memory. "You always did jump to conclusions," she said. "I am not homeless, Keanu. I am working." "Working?" She opened her notebook and showed him pages covered with neat handwriting. "I am documenting stories. The stories of people who chose different paths than the enhanced humans in the towers. People who stayed close to original humanity, while others reached for the stars." Keanu looked at the pages, seeing names, dates, and detailed notes about conversations and experiences. "You are a researcher." "I am a teacher first and foremost," Lisa said. "Always have been. But yes, for the past 30 years I have been collecting stories. The Galactic Council needs to understand what baseline humans are like. They need to know that we are not just one thing." He felt confusion mixing with amazement. "The Galactic Council knows about your work?" "They funded it," Lisa said simply. "Through something called the Human Heritage Project. Did you think they only cared about enhanced humans like you?" Keanu sat back on his heels, his mind spinning. All these years, while he had been traveling to distant worlds and negotiating with alien species, Lisa had been doing her own kind of diplomatic work right here on Earth. "Tell me everything," he said. Lisa closed her notebook and looked around. At the busy street. Not here. Walk with me. She stood up with the careful movements of someone whose joints ached, but whose spirit remained strong. The other people in her group waved goodbye, as if this was normal, as if they were used to her, coming and going for important meetings. They walked slowly through the lower district, Lisa setting a pace that was comfortable for her aged body. Keanu matched her speed, content to be beside her again after so many years. After high school, you left for college and I stayed local, Lisa began. We lost touch, which was probably good. We were kids, and we both needed to grow up. Keanu nodded. He remembered their tearful goodbye, both of them promising to stay in contact. But life had pulled them in different directions, as it often did with young love. I became a teacher, like I always planned. Elementary school first, then high school, then eventually I worked with adults who were learning to read. I spent 60 years in classrooms, Keanu. 60 years watching people discover new ideas and change their lives through learning. That sounds wonderful, he said, and meant it. It was. But then the enhancements became common, and society started changing fast. Some people chose to live for centuries to enhance their bodies and minds. Others chose to stay more or less human as nature made us. The gap between these groups was growing wider every year. They paused at a small park where children were playing. Lisa sat on a bench and patted the space beside her. Keanu joined her, remembering how they used to sit together and watch the world go by. About 40 years ago, I was contacted by a woman from the Human Colonial Federation. She told me that alien species were asking questions about humanity that no one could answer. They wanted to know if enhanced humans were still really human, or if they had become something new. What kind of questions? Do enhanced humans still feel love the same way? Do they still grieve when someone dies? Do they still create art for emotional reasons rather than logical ones? Do they still sacrifice themselves for strangers? Lisa turned to look at him. The aliens were trying to figure out if they were dealing with one species or two. Keanu thought about his recent negotiations with the Zephyrians. They had asked him similar questions, though he had not understood their importance at the time. So you started interviewing baseline humans. I started listening to them, Lisa corrected. There is a difference. I went to places where people still lived traditional lives. I talked to farmers and shopkeepers and maintenance workers. I sat with elderly people in nursing homes and young parents in playgrounds. I listened to their stories about love, loss, hope, and fear. And what did you find? Lisa smiled. I found that human nature does not change, even when human bodies do. Enhanced people and baseline people want the same things. They love the same way, grieve the same way, dream the same way. The only difference is time. A child ran past them chasing a ball, laughing with pure joy. Lisa watched the child with gentle eyes. I have been documenting this for decades. Every story, every emotion, every example of humans being beautifully, stubbornly human despite all the changes in our world. The aliens needed to see this data to understand that we are still one species, just with different lifespans. Keanu felt a strange mix of emotions, pride in what Lisa had accomplished, sadness that he had missed so much of her life, wonder at how their paths had led them to the same goal through such different methods. Your work helped with alien relations? More than you might think, Lisa said quietly. But that is a story for tomorrow. Right now, I just want to sit here, with my first love and remember what it felt like to be young together. They sat in comfortable silence as the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the park. Two old friends reunited after a lifetime apart. The next morning, Lisa met Keanu at a small cafe in the lower district. She carried a worn leather bag that looked like it had traveled many miles and seen many years of use. When she sat down across from him, she placed the bag carefully on the table between them. I want to show you something, Lisa said, opening the bag and pulling out several thick folders. These are copies of reports I have sent to the Galactic Council over the past 20 years. Keanu picked up the top folder and opened it. The pages inside were filled with typed notes, photographs, and what looked like official government stamps. The title page read, Baseline Human Emotional Responses to Loss and Grief, Study Group 847. Study group? He asked. I have interviewed over 3,000 people, Lisa said. Each person gets a number to protect their privacy, but their stories are all recorded. This particular study was about how baseline humans deal with death. Keanu flipped through the pages, seeing detailed notes about conversations, observations, about human behavior, and careful analysis of emotional patterns. It looked like serious scientific work. The Zephyrians requested this study specifically, Lisa continued. They were having trouble understanding why humans would risk their lives to save strangers. In their culture, you only protect your immediate family group. The idea of dying for someone you do not know made no sense to them. They asked me about this during the peace talks, Keanu said, remembering. They wanted to know if humans would really fight to the death for people they had never met. And what did you tell them? I said yes, but I could not explain why in a way they understood. Lisa smiled and pulled out another folder. This study explains the why. I documented 47 cases of baseline humans risking their own safety to help strangers. I recorded their thoughts before, during, and after these situations. I analyzed what motivated them and how they felt about their choices. She opened the folder to a page with photographs of people from all walks of life. Under each photo was a name, age, and a brief description of their heroic act. This woman, Carmen Rodriguez, ran into a burning building to save 3 children who were not related to her, Lisa said, pointing to one photo. This man, Peter Kim, gave up his place on the last evacuation ship during the Mars colony disaster so a pregnant woman could escape. This teenager, Alex Johnson, donated his savings to pay for a stranger's medical treatment. Keanu studied the faces in the photographs. They looked like ordinary people, the kind he saw every day in the lower districts. Nothing about them suggested they were heroes. What did you find? He asked. I found that baseline humans help strangers because they see themselves in other people. When they look at someone in trouble, they think that could be me, or that could be my child, or that could be my parent. The connection they feel is automatic and emotional, not logical. Lisa turned to another page that showed charts and graphs. Enhanced humans help strangers too, but their reasons are different. They calculate the benefits to society, or they follow ethical principles they have decided are correct. Baseline humans just feel the need to help, even when it makes no logical sense. The Zephyrians needed to understand this difference. All the alien species needed to understand it. The Galactic Council was trying to decide if enhanced humans and baseline humans should be treated as separate species. If we were 2 different kinds of beings, it would change everything about how they dealt with us. Keanu put down the folder and looked at Lisa with new respect. Your work helped them decide we are still one species. My work showed them that the core of human nature stays the same regardless of physical enhancements. We still love, fear, hope, and sacrifice in the same ways. The only difference is that enhanced humans have more time to do these things. Lisa pulled out a third folder, this one marked with symbols he recognized as Zephyrian writing. This report was translated into their language and distributed to their military leaders. It helped convince them that humans would fight fiercely to protect each other, but also that we could be trusted to keep our word in peace agreements. Because we form emotional bonds even with strangers. Because we form emotional bonds with anyone we see as part of our community. And for humans, community can include people we have never met, people from other planets, even people from other species if we spend enough time with them. Keanu thought about his own experiences with alien diplomats. Over the months of negotiations, he had begun to care about some of the Zephyrian representatives as individuals. Their success had mattered to him personally, not just professionally. The Council has been sharing your research with other species? Lisa nodded. My work has been translated into 47 different alien languages. Species across the galaxy are using it to understand not just humans, but emotion-based decision-making in general. Most alien cultures are much more logical than we are. They find our emotional responses both puzzling and fascinating. She pulled out a letter with official Galactic Council seals. 6 months ago, I received this. It is a formal request from the Andromedan Trade Alliance. They want me to study their own people to see if they have similar emotional patterns to humans. They want you to leave Earth? They want me to help them understand themselves better. Apparently, some young Andromedans have been showing behavior that their elders consider strange and illogical. They think these young people might be developing human-like emotional responses through contact with our traders. Keanu stared at the letter. The idea that Lisa's work could help alien species understand their own evolution was incredible. There is more, Lisa said quietly. She pulled out a final folder, this one thinner than the others. 3 weeks ago, I received a request that I have not answered yet. She opened the folder to reveal a single sheet of paper with elegant alien script. At the bottom was a translation in human English. The Cosmic Preservation Society wants to interview me for the Universal Archive, Lisa said. They want to record my life story as an example of baseline human experience. The recording would be preserved forever, available to any species that wants to understand what humans were like before enhancement technology. That is an incredible honor. It is also a big responsibility. Once my story is in the Universal Archive, it becomes part of the official record of human civilization. Future species will learn about humanity partly through my experiences. Keanu reached across the table and took her hand. Her skin was soft but marked with age spots, a reminder of all the years that had passed since they were young together. You have done amazing work, Lisa. You have helped humanity in ways I never imagined. She squeezed his hand gently. We both found ways to serve our species, Keanu. You showed the galaxy what humans could become. I showed them what we have always been. Both perspectives were needed. As they sat holding hands across the small table, Keanu realized that their love story had become much bigger than either of them had expected. It had become part of humanity's story in the stars. 3 days later, Lisa invited Keanu to her real home. He had expected a small apartment in the lower district, but instead she led him to a comfortable house in a quiet neighborhood where trees lined the streets and children played in front yards. You have been living here all along? Keanu asked as they walked up the front steps. For 30 years, Lisa said, unlocking the door. The work with homeless populations requires me to spend nights on the street sometimes, but this has always been my base. Inside, the house was warm and filled with books. The walls were covered with photographs of people from all walks of life. Keanu recognized some faces from the folders Lisa had shown him, but there were hundreds more he had never seen. These are all people you interviewed? These are all people who shared their stories with me, Lisa corrected. Each one taught me something about what it means to be human. She led him to a study where her desk was covered with papers, recording, equipment, and what looked like communication devices designed for interplanetary use. On the wall behind the desk was a large screen showing a star map with various sectors highlighted in different colors. This is where I write my reports for the Galactic Council, Lisa said, settling into her desk chair. And this is where I received the message that I need to show you. She activated the screen and pulled up a communication file. The sender information showed symbols that Keanu recognized as belonging to the highest levels of the Galactic Council itself. This arrived yesterday, Lisa said, opening the message. It is the reason I wanted you to see my real work. The message began with formal greetings in several alien languages, followed by an English translation. As Keanu read, his expression changed from curiosity to amazement to something approaching shock. The message was an official notification that Lisa Martinez had been selected as the first baseline human to receive the title of Universal Cultural Ambassador. The position had never existed before, created specifically to honor her contributions to interspecies understanding. Lisa, Keanu said slowly, do you understand what this means? I understand that it means more work, she said with a small smile. But I think there is more to it than what the message says directly. She pulled up another file, this one marked with security classifications that Keanu had only seen at the highest levels of diplomatic communications. This is the real message, Lisa said, the one that explains what is actually happening. The second message contained information that made Keanu sit down heavily in the chair beside her desk. According to the document, Lisa's work had not just helped alien species understand human nature. It had prevented 3 separate wars and was about to make possible something that had never happened in galactic history. The Zephyrian conflict that you resolved, Lisa said, pointing to a section of the message. They were ready to attack human colonies because they believed enhanced humans were a new species that posed a threat to galactic balance. My reports on baseline human emotions convinced them that enhanced and unenhanced humans were still fundamentally the same people. Keanu stared at the screen. Your work was why they were willing to listen to me at all. The Andromedans were planning to cut off all trade with humans because they thought we were becoming too unpredictable as we enhanced ourselves. My documentation of consistent human behavioral patterns across both populations convinced them we were still reliable partners. She scrolled to another section. The Crystalline Collective was preparing to request that humans be classified as a restricted species, limited to our current territory, and prevented from further expansion. My research showing that human empathy extends even to non-human species changed their minds. 3 wars, Keanu said quietly. Your research prevented 3 wars. But that is not the most important part, Lisa said, scrolling to the final section of the message. Read this. The last part of the document contained an announcement that left Keanu completely speechless. The Galactic Council had voted unanimously to offer humanity something that had never been offered to any species in recorded history: the position of guardian species for the entire galaxy. Guardian species were responsible for making first contact with newly discovered civilizations, guiding their development and protecting them from exploitation by more advanced races. It was a role of immense responsibility and honor, and no single species had ever been trusted with such authority. They want humans to be the guardians of the galaxy? Keanu asked, his voice barely a whisper. They want us to be the species that helps other young civilizations grow and develop safely, Lisa said. Because we have shown that we can maintain our essential nature while still advancing technologically. Because we care about beings we have never met. Because we sacrifice for strangers and feel genuine empathy for other forms of life. Keanu read the document again, trying to process the implications. This would make humanity the most powerful species in the galaxy. This would make humanity the most responsible species in the galaxy, Lisa corrected. And it is only possible because we proved that enhanced humans and baseline humans are still the same species at heart. If my research had shown otherwise, if enhanced humans had lost their essential humanity, this offer would never have been made. She pulled up one more file, this one showing voting records from the Galactic Council session where the decision was made. Every species that voted in favor of this decision cited my research as a primary factor, Lisa said. They trust humans to be guardians because baseline humans like me proved that we have not lost our capacity for love, sacrifice, and moral judgment, even as we gained the ability to live forever and travel between stars. Keanu stared at the screen for a long time without speaking. His mind was racing, trying to understand the full significance of what Lisa had accomplished. While he had been working to maintain peace between existing civilizations, she had been proving that humanity deserved to guide the development of future civilizations. Lisa, he finally said, your work did not just prevent wars. It secured humanity's place as the guardians of the galaxy. Our work, she said gently. You showed them what enhanced humans could accomplish. I showed them what baseline humans had preserved. Both were necessary. Keanu looked at the woman he had loved as a teenager, now aged and weathered but somehow more beautiful than ever. Her choice to live a natural lifespan and document the human experience had changed the course of galactic history. I do not know what to say, he admitted. Lisa smiled and reached for his hand. You do not have to say anything, Keanu. Some moments are too big for words. For the second time since finding her on the street, Keanu found himself completely speechless. But this time it was not from shock or confusion. It was from the overwhelming realization that the quiet woman sitting beside him had just secured humanity's future among the stars through the simple act of documenting what it meant to be human. 2 weeks after learning about the Guardian species offer, Keanu met Lisa at the same small park where they had talked before. She was sitting on their usual bench, But today she had a large metal case beside her that looked official and expensive. "The Galactic Council delivered this yesterday," Lisa said, patting the case. "It contains everything I need for my final research project." Keanu sat down beside her, noting that she looked more tired than usual. The excitement of recent revelations had been wearing on both of them, but Lisa seemed to be feeling the strain more deeply. "Final project?" he asked. Lisa opened the case to reveal sophisticated recording equipment, translation devices, and communication tools that were far more advanced than anything he had seen her use before. There were also official documents with seals from multiple alien governments. "The Council wants me to complete one last study before they formally offer humanity the guardian species position," Lisa said. "They need documentation of how enhanced humans and baseline humans interact in everyday situations." She pulled out a tablet and showed him a detailed research plan. The scope was enormous, covering hundreds of locations across Earth and human colonies throughout the galaxy. "This is a massive undertaking," Keanu said, scrolling through the plan. "It would take years to complete." "I have 6 months," Lisa said quietly. "That is all the time I have left." The meaning of her words hit him slowly. He looked at her face, really seeing the deeper tiredness in her eyes, and the way she moved more carefully than before. "Lisa, are you sick?" "I am dying," she said simply. "Natural human aging, even with modern medicine, has its limits. My body is 188 years old, and it is ready to stop. I have maybe half a year left, possibly less." Keanu felt his chest tighten with grief and panic. "There are treatments, enhancement procedures. We could extend your life." "I could have used those treatments at any time in the past century," Lisa said. "I chose not to because my work required me to remain baseline human. That choice has not changed." She closed the tablet and looked out at the children playing in the park. "My final study is the most important one. The Council needs to understand how enhanced and baseline humans will work together as guardian species. They need to see that we can cooperate, that we respect each other, and that we truly are one people despite our different lifespans." "How? Will you document all of this in 6 months?" Lisa smiled. "I will not be working alone. The Council has assigned me a research partner, someone who understands both enhanced and baseline human perspectives." She handed him an official letter with his name on it. "They want me to work with you?" Keanu asked. "They want the galaxy's most successful enhanced human diplomat to collaborate with its most respected baseline human researcher. Together, we will document the final proof that humanity deserves to guide other species." Keanu read the letter, seeing detailed plans for visiting human settlements throughout the galaxy. They would interview families where some members were enhanced and others were not. They would observe workplaces where both types of humans collaborated on important projects. They would document how human communities functioned when lifespans and abilities differed dramatically. "This is not just research," he realized. "This is our chance to spend your remaining time together." "That occurred to me as well," Lisa said, softly. "After all these years apart, we get to work as a team again, even if it is only for a short time." Over the following weeks, they began their research together. They traveled to Mars colonies where enhanced humans worked alongside baseline humans to terraform the planet. They visited space stations where families included members with lifespans ranging from decades to centuries. They interviewed couples where one partner had chosen enhancement and the other had remained natural. What they found surprised even Lisa, who had spent decades studying human behavior. Enhanced and baseline humans did not just coexist peacefully. They actively chose to build lives together, creating communities that were stronger because of their differences rather than despite them. On Europa, they met a family where the grandmother was baseline human, the parents were enhanced, and the children would choose their own path when they came of age. The family functioned perfectly, with each generation contributing different perspectives and wisdom to family decisions. The enhanced parents make long-term plans that span centuries, Lisa noted in her reports. The baseline grandmother provides emotional wisdom about accepting loss and change. The children benefit from both approaches. On Titan, they observed a research team developing new agricultural techniques. Half the team members were enhanced, with perfect memory and accelerated thinking. The other half were baseline humans, who approach problems intuitively and creatively. Enhanced humans excel at processing large amounts of data and spotting logical patterns, Keanu wrote in his sections of the report. Baseline humans excel at making unexpected connections and thinking outside established frameworks. Together, they solve problems that neither group could handle alone. As they traveled and worked together, Keanu watched Lisa growing weaker. She needed more rest between interviews, and sometimes she had to stop talking in the middle of conversations to catch her breath. But her mind remained sharp and her passion for the work never diminished. "Are you in pain?" he asked during a quiet moment on their ship between colonies. "Not much," she said. "Mostly I feel grateful. How many people get to spend their final months doing the most important work of their lifetime with the person they loved most when they were young? How many people get to save the galaxy twice in one lifetime?" Keanu replied. "Twice? Your research prevented 3 wars and secured the Guardian species offer. Now this final study will provide the framework for how humanity governs the galaxy for the next 1,000 years. You are literally writing the rules for how enhanced and baseline humans will work together to guide other civilizations." Lisa looked out the ship's window at the stars streaming past. "I never imagined my life would matter this much when I was 18 and holding your hand under that old oak tree." "I never imagined I would get to hold that hand again," Keanu said, reaching for her fingers. They sat together in comfortable silence, 2 people who had found each other again after a lifetime apart, working together to secure humanity's future among the stars. Outside their window, the galaxy waited for their final report, ready to entrust humanity with the greatest responsibility any species had ever been given. "Whatever happens next," Lisa said quietly, "we did something beautiful together." Keanu squeezed her hand gently, knowing that their love story had become part of the foundation upon which humanity would build its galactic civilization. 4 months into their final research project, Lisa collapsed during an interview on one of the outer colonies. Keanu carried her to the medical center, where the doctors confirmed what they both already knew. Her time was running out faster than expected. 2 weeks, maybe 3, the doctor said quietly. "Her body is simply wearing out. There is nothing we can do except make her comfortable." Lisa squeezed Keanu's hand from her hospital bed. "We need to finish the report," she said. "The council is waiting." "The report can wait," Keanu said. "You need to rest. The galaxy cannot." "Wait," Lisa replied firmly. "This is bigger than both of us now." They spent the next 10 days working together in Lisa's hospital room. Keanu typed while Lisa spoke, recording her final observations about human cooperation and the future of the species. Even as her body grew weaker, her mind remained clear and focused on the work. "Enhanced humans bring knowledge and long-term thinking," she dictated. "Baseline humans bring intuition and acceptance of natural cycles. Together, they create a species that can both plan for centuries and adapt to immediate change. This combination makes humans uniquely qualified to guide other civilizations." When the report was finished, it was 300 pages of detailed observations, interviews, and analysis. It painted a picture of humanity as a species that had managed to evolve in 2 directions at once while remaining fundamentally unified. "It is beautiful work," Keanu said, reading through the final version. "This will change everything." "This will begin everything," Lisa corrected. "Humanity's real work in the galaxy starts after this." 3 days later, representatives from the Galactic Council arrived at the hospital. They had come to receive the report in person and to make their formal offer to humanity. Lisa insisted on sitting up for the ceremony, though it clearly cost her significant effort. The lead representative was a tall, graceful being from the Andromedan Trade Alliance. She spoke in careful, accented English out of respect for Lisa's condition. "Lisa Martinez," she said, "your work has shown the galaxy something we thought was impossible. You have proven that a species can transcend its biological limitations while maintaining its essential nature. Based on your research, The Galactic Council formally offers humanity the position of guardian species. Lisa smiled weakly, but her voice was strong when she replied. On behalf of all humans, both enhanced and baseline, I accept this honor and responsibility. The ceremony was brief, but historic. For the first time in galactic history, a single species would be responsible for guiding the development of younger civilizations throughout the galaxy. The decision was based largely on research conducted by a dying woman in a hospital room on a distant colony. After the representatives left, Lisa asked Keanu to help her record one final message. This is for future generations, she explained. Both human and alien. My name is Lisa Martinez, she said into the recording device. I am a baseline human, 188 years old, and these are my final words for the Universal Archive. She spoke for nearly an hour, her voice growing softer as she continued but never losing its clarity of purpose. I chose to live a natural human lifespan not because I feared enhancement, but because I believed someone needed to preserve the original human experience. I have watched our species grow and change, reaching for the stars while keeping their feet on the ground. We are not perfect, but we are loving. We are not logical, but we are caring. We make mistakes, but we learn from them. She paused to rest, then continued. To the alien species who will listen to this recording, humans will make good guardians, because we remember what it feels like to be small and afraid and confused. We remember what it means to need help from strangers. We remember the importance of hope when everything seems impossible. Keanu wiped tears from his eyes as she spoke. To future humans who will carry out this guardian role, remember that your greatest strength is not your technology or your intelligence. Your greatest strength is your ability to see yourselves in others, even when those others look nothing like you. Love them as you would want to be loved. Protect them as you would want to be protected. Teach them as you would want to be taught. When the recording was finished, Lisa smiled at Keanu. Now I am ready, she said simply. Ready for what? Ready to let go. The work is finished. Humanity's future is secure. You and I found each other again and did something meaningful together. There is nothing left undone. That night, as Keanu sat beside her bed holding her hand, Lisa spoke her final words. We are not defined by how long we live, she whispered. We are defined by how deeply we love. She died peacefully just before dawn, with Keanu holding her, hand and Earth's sun rising through the hospital window. The funeral was attended by representatives from 47 different alien species, more humans than had ever gathered in one place, and leaders from every human colony in the galaxy. Lisa's research had touched beings across the galaxy, and they all came to honor her memory. But perhaps the most meaningful moment came when a group of children from the local colony school sang a song they had written about her work. Their young voices filled the ceremony hall as they sang about a teacher who had shown the galaxy what it meant to be human. 3 months later, Keanu stood before the Galactic Council to formally accept humanity's role as guardian species. He carried with him Lisa's final report and her recorded message, which would become the philosophical foundation for how humans would guide other civilizations. We accept this responsibility, he said to the assembled representatives, not because we are perfect, but because we remember what it feels like to grow and learn and make mistakes. We will guide other species the way Lisa Martinez guided us all, with patience, with love, and with deep respect for the beauty of life itself. As he spoke, Keanu thought about a teenage boy and girl holding hands under an oak tree, dreaming about their futures. Neither of them had imagined their love story would become part of the foundation of galactic civilization. But perhaps that was the most human thing of all, finding ways to turn personal love into universal service, and discovering that the smallest acts of caring could change the entire galaxy. Lisa's words became the motto for humanity's guardian mission. We are not defined by how long we live, but by how deeply we love. These words were carved into monuments on 1,000 worlds, translated into countless alien languages, and remembered by species that had not yet been born. And somewhere in the vast records of the Universal Archive, the love story of Keanu and Lisa continued to teach the galaxy what it truly meant to be human.